Auburn is one of the teams that has generated the most hype over this offseason for the 2025 season. They're bringing in multiple transfer quarterbacks, including Ashton Daniels from Stanford, but the favorite for the job right now is Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. The Tigers are coming off of a pretty disappointing season, but a lot of people seem to think that they can really turn it around this year and potentially make a push for the college football playoffs. Taking a look at the schedule, though, it's going to be very difficult. There's a lot of really tough games on here. A lot of them are on the road as well. Baylor, Oklahoma, and A&M to start the year, as well as Georgia at home is going to be really tough. Vanderbilt on the road is going to be tough, and don't forget the Iron Bowl to close out the season. 7 of these games are at home, and 5 are on the road. This schedule difficulty, though, for the SEC, it's really not that terrible. So we'd actually have this at a 5.5 out of 10.
Going along with that too, yes, Auburn does have a lot of hype, and it is because they are a very young and developing team. But that high upside that they do have makes it almost a little bit easier. Like I can see them winning a lot of these tough games against the top SEC opponents, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Starting the season off though on the road against Baylor. Currently, Auburn is actually favored in this game. I think they're favored by 1.5 points right now. Again, it's very, very early. We're gonna have this at 50% though. Yes, Jackson Arnold has experience and is most likely going to be the day one starter for this Tigers team. But Baylor is returning Sawyer Robertson at their starting quarterback position. And I like Sawyer Robertson a lot better than Jackson Arnold. He has more experience in college football. He's coming off of a much more successful season statistically for himself. Granted, Baylor didn't really do anything bowl game wise or college football playoff wise, but we're really high on this Baylor team, and we think they're going to be one of the better teams pushing for the Big 12 title next season. And I think this is a tough draw for this young Auburn team, especially on the road. So we're gonna have this at 50% for right now, just because we don't really know what the situation is for this Auburn team, especially at the quarterback position. But could be a very interesting game, and if Auburn gets a win here, it's starting the season off right. Then the following two games are at home against Ball State and South Alabama. Both teams that I don't think Auburn should struggle with. They should get these wins pretty handily, especially at Jordan Hare Stadium regardless of who's playing at quarterback. Like I said, they're a very young team. I think they're going to just be the more athletic team, the bigger, faster, stronger team compared to Ball State and South Alabama. So 100% chances in both of those games for the Tigers. Then they start SEC play against Oklahoma on the road. Now, this is like Jonah was saying, it's going to be a little bit of a revenge game for Jackson Arnold since he did transfer in from Oklahoma. But I think this Oklahoma team is going to be a little bit better, especially for the first SEC game for these two teams. I think Oklahoma is going to be in a better situation. They finished higher in the SEC last year, just granted by one game, but looked a lot better overall. And they have the probably the top quarterback transfer in the entire league in John Matier coming in from Washington State, who is expected to bring a lot of life and energy into this Oklahoma team. With it being at home, with John Matier likely being the better quarterback between him and Jackson Arnold, I think just because Oklahoma will have a little bit more experience, a little bit more seniority in the key positions, I think this Oklahoma team is going to be able to start SEC play off with the win. Granted, this could all change if Auburn starts to look a lot better with their young guys. But for right now, we're giving Auburn a 25% chance on the road against Oklahoma. Following week against Texas A&M at Kyle Fields, one of the hardest places to play in the entire country. And once again, this is a tough start to SEC play for this Tigers team, especially with them being so young. I'm going to sound like broken record if I say that over and over again, but experience is key in a lot of situations. Jackson Arnold, even though he does have some experience and had some flashes last year at Oklahoma. Overall, his stats are not the greatest. He only had about 1,400 passing yards. I think he threw maybe 15 touchdowns, somewhere around there, to 8 or 10 interceptions. So I'd like to see a little bit more out of Jackson Arnold. Their spring game is this weekend, and we'll be paying very close attention to that just to see who comes out of that QB battle, but also just how Jackson Arnold looks in general. But at the end of the day, Texas A&M is just going to be the better team on both sides of the ball, and it's at Kyle Fields. Marcel Reed taking the reins in another year after a very successful season last year. I think A&M is going to far and away be the better team in this one. So 30% chance for the Tigers to get a win at Kyle Fields going into their first bye week.
Yeah, they're really going to need that bye week too, because after that they face the Georgia Bulldogs. Now they did lose Carson Beck to the transfer portal, but I think Georgia's going to be just fine without him. This is going to be a really, really solid roster overall, as long as they can avoid people getting arrested for anything related to driving. But halfway through the season, they should still have most of their roster intact. And I think this is going to be just a little bit too much for Auburn, even though it's at home. This is a really, really good Georgia team, and I only see it about a 15% chance for Auburn to get a crazy upset here at Jordan Hare. Next up, though, is Missouri, and this is actually one of the SEC games that I think Auburn has a pretty solid chance in. If you watched our Missouri video, you would know we're really not that high on Missouri whatsoever. We both think they were overrated last year. They're losing a lot. The fact that Auburn gets this one at home, I think 50-50 is a little bit generous to even Missouri as of right now. So definitely feel pretty good about Auburn here. For right now, though, just because there's so much unknown around the quarterback position, like Connor was saying, we think it's going to be Jackson Arnold, but we really don't know until after the spring game, which is why we're going to update these predictions later on in the offseason once we know more. But for right now, we're going to keep this one at a 50-50. Arkansas on the road is next up on October 25th. This one also going to be at a 50-50. Arkansas's got Taylon Green coming back at quarterback for his senior season, and I think he's going to be very solid once again. And just overall, home field advantage is going to help Arkansas out here a little bit. But this maybe is the point in the season where we start to see some of this young talent for Auburn really settle in and start to play a little bit more cohesively. I think this is going to be a really, really good game. But again, for right now, going to have to put this at a 50-50. Back at home to face Kentucky. And this is probably going to be the easiest SEC game that the Tigers have all year. Really not high on Kentucky whatsoever. Um, yeah, just not a good team last year. Didn't really add enough to be considered a good team this season. I got this about an 80% chance for Auburn to win. This is probably the SEC game that I would say there's just no way that Auburn loses. And then finally, before the second bye week, we have Vanderbilt on the road. The Commodores bringing back Diego Pavia, and they were the big story last season after upsetting Alabama. They also played other teams like Texas pretty close. So this is a very, very interesting Vanderbilt team. They have the home field advantage here. And really, this percentage is going to have to be based a little bit more off of last season and what Vanderbilt was able to do last season. So we are going to favor the Commodores in this one, and only about a 30% chance for an Auburn win on the road.
Coming out of that second bye week, they're in for a pretty easy game, 100% chance against Mercer, and they're going to need to get in good shape going into the following week with the home game in the Iron Bowl against that Alabama team. It's been close the past couple of years. Alabama has been pretty consistently getting the wins, but it hasn't been easy for them, and I don't think it's going to be too much different compared to years past. I think with both these teams are kind of in a similar situation. There's QB battles going on for both teams. With Alabama, it's between, I think now sophomore Austin Mack, followed Kalen DeBoer from Washington to Alabama, and then also their junior quarterback and Ty Simpson, who has been the backup for Jalen Milroe the past couple seasons. It really could go either way for that one. Again, we're gonna pay attention to both of those quarterbacks in their spring games, see who comes out on top, because that's actually one that a lot of people are looking at because that could be the difference in a very successful Alabama season or not. So what this ultimately comes down to is honestly, it's a flip of a coin. It is almost every year. And maybe the youth of Auburn is enough this year, especially after a very successful season from their wide receiver core. Cam Coleman's returning after an incredible freshman season, 600 yards, 8 touchdowns in his freshman year. It's pretty solid as their number two guy. They have a couple other young wide receivers. Big thing is they're going to need someone to step up in the running back department, considering that their starting running back in Jarquez Hunter is going to the NFL draft, and their second leading rusher was actually their quarterback in Peyton Thorne. So it's going to be interesting between these two teams. If Jackson Arnold hits a stride with this Auburn offense and the defense can lock in for just a couple plays against this Alabama team, and maybe Alabama's slipping a little bit during this stretch of the season, maybe Auburn's got a chance. Right now, we're going to lean Alabama because, as we know, history usually tends to repeat itself a little bit, especially in these. So I'm going to go with Alabama in this one, just slightly here. With it being at home for Auburn, they're going to have a slightly better chance, but we're still going to have Alabama as a favorite, giving a 40% chance for the Tigers to win the Iron Bowl.
Yeah, just looking at the schedule as a whole, the thing that really sticks out to me is the start of the season for Auburn. And I think that's going to define really the whole year and how well Auburn can actually do. If they win that game at Baylor, I think that sets them up pretty well, but it's still really important in my mind that they either win at Oklahoma or at Texas A&M. I think in order to have a successful season, they have to start 4-1. Anything less than that, and it's really going to be dangerous coming out of that bye week with Georgia. That's realistically that's going to be a loss. Um, I don't feel super great about them winning at Vanderbilt. Like you were saying, Bama, there's upset potential there, but we're probably going to lose that also. So, I mean, really, you're going to end up around 6-6 if you don't start 4-1. And with how young this team is, personally, I'm leaning Baylor as of right now for that opening game, and I don't think they're going to beat both Oklahoma and A&M. Maybe they can win one, but I mean, that's already two or three losses, probably three. So, I mean, it's tough to see Auburn getting even to 500 at that point. I could see them going maybe 5-7, but there's potential to get up to 7-5, but I just don't really see like the 9 wins that a lot of people have been talking about.
Yeah, this season hinges on the development of their young guys, and then, like you said, how they start the season. Ideally, for record wise, yes, I think they would need to be 4-1 to start the season. For potential for later on, I'm not saying that they're going to be favorites or like in a close spread against teams like Georgia, Alabama, even against Vandy, but if they look good, at the very least from a development standpoint, from a team's standpoint, they look good against Baylor, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, then I'd have confidence in them. Maybe they'll still end up losing those games to Georgia and Alabama and Vandy, but I'd feel better about this team, and at least there's room for growth and room to get better as the season goes on. But it really hinges on the quarterback play and the development of these young guys. But we have seen that this young team still has upset potential. I actually totally forgot because I was actually watching the game and I saw it as I was doing some research. I forgot Auburn beat Texas A&M last year. It was that like how many overtimes they got? Five OT, four overtimes, and it was Texas A&M's guy dropping the ball in the 2-point conversion in the end zone that would have kept the game going. So this Auburn team has a lot of potential, but it really just comes down to those young guys. So I think 6-6, 5-7 is where I am landing right now, but I easily could see if the young guys start to break out a little bit more. I could see 7-5, maybe getting to 8-4.
Yeah, I don't want it to seem like we're hating on Auburn because I know they've gotten a lot of preseason hype, but I think there's a chance that it might be at least a season too early. But even if it's a half season too early, if they don't hit that stride until the second half of the year, I mean, playoffs are already out of the question at that point.
And
So
they got a lot to look forward to, though. We didn't
they
mention him,
do.
but Deuce Knight is their quarterback of the future. He's got a lot of development still to go, but by next season, he could be the starter. He could be the starter this year if he makes some strides at the spring game and during the summer, but that's their future.
Last year they went 5-7. Our projected win total based on all those percentages though is actually 6.7 wins, which is significantly higher than our record prediction at 5-7. So yes, we are low on Auburn, but it's just because they are such a young team and there's just so much that's unproven about them that it's maybe a little bit risky to predict them to not do as well as a lot of people are saying, but that's something that we feel more comfortable with doing just because I mean the SEC is a solid conference and it's really tough to see Auburn pulling off such a big switch. 6-6 is possible, 7-5 is possible, like I've been saying, but I wouldn't predict them to go any higher than 7-5. And that Vegas over under is at 7.5, favoring the over. Personally, I just don't see it. So we are going to go with 5-7 in this way too early prediction. But like I said, not all hope is lost. Things can change. So make sure to like and subscribe so you can come back and see that next video, as well as all of our other videos that we're doing for every single other Power 4 team. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.